Okay, so this is a review of seasons 1 and 2 of The Expanse. Forewarning, I have not read the books, so I don't have any background information besides what I watched. I'll stick to non-spoilers for the first bit here, see if you're interested in the series.
Like and subscribe if you enjoyed these reviews, and now I'm gonna move on to non-spoilers.
The first thing I have to say about the series is it is extremely slow to start. It took me 3 times over a couple of months to finally make it through the first season. Those episodes are very dense and filled with information and just signs that you won't clearly understand until later, and I still don't understand a lot of it. And up until the last 2, maybe 2.5 episodes of season 1, it's pretty much just people talking back and forth with maybe 30 seconds of maybe spaceship warfare or something. There's not a whole lot going on in the terms to keep your eyes occupied on the screen, and it's a lot of just listening. And so that took me quite a while to get through. But when you get to season 2, the last 2 episodes of season 1 are essentially events happen like that 3 times or more throughout season 2. It's much more action-packed, much more fast-paced. There's still the talking and the plot, but overall, there is a lot more going on at a more rapid pace. That's my biggest criticism, is it really does just throw you right into the world, and it's very hard to kind of get attached and grasp everything initially, especially because they're just, fuck it, here you go, figure it out. You won't get a lot of action until later in the series. But now, looking back, I can kind of see that it was just a very slow burn start to set up everything later on. And this is a 5-season series, I think. And currently, after finishing season 2, I can see that those plot threads from season 1 are going to stretch all the way through. It's not going to just be like season-to-season conflicts ending and going on, which I really appreciate in looking back on an overall story, even though it may be harder to start in the first place. Overall, you'll have a better view at the end of it. In terms of other spoiler-free things I can say, the setting is essentially just our solar system in a couple hundred years in the future, whereas there's 3 main players. There's Earth, and then there's the Mars colony, which is not really a colony anymore. It's more of a militarized state by itself. And then there's the Belt and the OPA. The Belt, I'm assuming, is the asteroid belt in between Earth and Mars. I haven't really done my is it geography in space? Spaceography? Sure. But the OPA is essentially not a terror cell, not a resistance group, but kind of their own governorship of a lot of the belt. And then there's moons and stuff that each of the big players are on, like Ganymede or Eros. Eros is an asteroid that comes into play later. But overall, it's stretching throughout the middle of our solar system, and technology has progressed pretty far, but it's still relatively reasonable. It's not a whole lot of stuff that you would see in super advanced science fiction. This is all stuff that you'd be yeah, I could get that in a couple of years. To end the spoiler-free section, I'll just say that as of finishing season 2, I do think it is worth it to stick through the initial slow-paced, very plot-heavy, but not even calling it plot-heavy, but just dense episodes of season 1 to get to the more expansive, no pun intended, story and action of season 2. I give it a recommendation. I'm not going to put a rating on it because I'd like to finish the series first. Since it's all out, I won't rate it season by season. Maybe at the end I will say which seasons are better. Obviously, so far I've enjoyed season 2 more than season 1, but that may change, just like in Game of Thrones, my favorite show. I didn't really enjoy season 1 the first time I watched it through, but I appreciated it much more later on. Like and subscribe if you enjoy these reviews. I'm going to move on to spoilers. For the spoiler section, it may be a little haphazard because, as I said, it did take me a couple months to get through that season 1, and so I may not hit on all the plot details, but I'll give my overall thoughts and impressions on everything. And ironically, for me saying that the first episodes are very plot dense and slow to go by. Episode 1 starts out pretty strongly with the ship that the Holden and the crew are on getting blown up after they went out and checked the distress call, which he was the reason they did that, because he's got a moral complex, as is displayed throughout. Amos says it quite a few times. It was like, I don't have to think of if I'm on the good guy's side, because I know you will always do what's right. And I really like that relationship. It's very strenuous, but like, they are clearly friends by the time you get to the point I'm at, even with the conflict that they've had. And I think that's enjoyable. A relationship I'm not too happy about, or like I just like am not super attached to, is Holden and what's her name? Holden and Naomi. I'm not too attached to that relationship. I felt like through conflict, and now at the end of season 2, they're pretty on icy terms because she kept the protomolecule and then gave it to Fred Johnson, and that would be kind of a wrench in everything. Going more along with Holden, as I'll just go character by character of what I remember. He is kind of the main character of the show, even though it does follow multiple perspectives, and he is the driving force and main decision maker for our crew. I'm going to call it the Rocinante crew because they eventually get to the Rocinante. But he, I feel, is a little bland until later on. Like once the moment I think of that kind of like knocks it out of him being bland is when him and Alex are hunting the protomolecule while Naomi and the rest are still on the Ganymede dock, and he is super locked on. He is like bloodthirsty, and he doesn't care about anything but killing this thing and ridding it of the solar system. And with his friends in danger, like people are gonna die, and Alex saying, hey, we gotta get the fuck out of here, we gotta be done with this. He is so locked on and bloodthirsty, and that like just like kind of shows that he does not always think of doing the right thing in the first place. He eventually does, and he saves his friends, but he was like, without Alex to convince him, he wouldn't have done that. He would have kept on going after it, and that like was the characterization that I was kind of looking for, of like, yes, he wants to do the right thing, but doing the right thing is not necessarily what he'll always do in the others' perspectives. Like, that was not the right thing to do, was keep hunting the protomolecule, even though he saw that as the right thing to do. And I thought that was good. There was that one weird scene of like Avasarello meeting with his mom on Earth. I think that's his mom, and she was like, yeah, he's not a bad kid, he just doesn't really like authority. That's when they thought he was maybe an OPA terrorist. That was kind of just out there. I didn't really know how that connected. More along Holden's plot line and characters, I just think that he's a pretty decent main character follow behind. You can put yourself behind his decisions. It's solid. Some of the other crew, like Amos and Naomi, they kind of go hand in hand. Like the previous relationships, not established too well, but you get the hints that like they've been like friends for a while. And I'm not sure if Amos is supposed to be a representation of an autistic character, because later on he talks about like consciousness and like not totally knowing how to make his own decisions and stuff like that, and like some of his behaviors reminiscent of that. I'm not too experienced in recognizing that field, but I thought that was a pretty cool characterization, and I like what they did with him. Amos, I think, is a well mapped out character that really adds good conflict to situations that necessarily would just be glossed over into other shows or other mediums of just like, oh yeah, we all agree. He adds a different perspective. Naomi, I am not really a huge fan of. I don't know, it just like doesn't click with me. She is OPA, and she does give the protomolecule to Fred Johnson, along with hiding it in the first place when the whole crew decides to launch it into the sun, which I was like, come on, no. And now she's kind of in everybody's shit list because she did that, and she gave to Fred Johnson. She weaponized even more of the solar system. Her, as I touched on, her romance with Holden, I can give or take, wasn't my favorite, whatever. Alex, I like Alex. Alex is essentially comic relief, but he has the depth of his family on Mars. And in season 2, he had himself making an audio log to his family, and he's like, sorry I can't be there, but I'm doing what makes me feel alive. And like, it was like, he's like, I know this is selfish and all that, and I thought that was great because it showed that he recognizes that him not being with his family in a time of war, and like, it's like, oh yeah, listen to the government, but I'm not gonna be there. I'm gonna be going fucking around doing space adventures. Like, it showed that he recognizes that he's not necessarily the good person in the situation. It's not, I have a duty to do, it's I want to do this, and I could easily go home, as they were like in season 2 deciding whether to go drop off Naomi at one of the belt places or go and find the doctor's son. I don't remember the doctor's name, but that's a character that now joins our crew off of Ganymede, who had one of the coldest cold opens to an episode of him and a fellow friend are on a refugee ship, and the Belter ship loaders or whatever that saved them launch every single Earth person off, or Mars person too, and he is watching on the window after like the little 0G, and they put their hands up, and then she gets shot out the airlock, and he's just like, that character has gotten just tortured over and over and over again, and I feel very sympathetic, even though the whole time when they were chasing the proto-molecule, that may have been his daughter, wasn't his daughter, because that end scene of season 2 wasn't his daughter. He was kind of an idiot there, but like, he's very tortured, and like, he wanted to hope that his daughter was alive. And overall, his solution with the radiation, that was just a smart way of getting rid of something besides just shoot. I very much expected them to be like, oh, Amos, go walk outside and then have him follow you, and we'll pop up one of the guns on the Rocinante. I like that solution much better. And then as that character goes, he's now the main plot driving focus of our crew, going through to find his daughter, which will lead more to the not Julie Mao's dad, who is the guy that circulated proto-molecule and stealth ships. He is the main plot driver going into season 3 with that decision to go help his daughter. And then moving to Earth, Aversorello in season 1 felt like just kind of spinning wheels, and I was just kind of very non-committal about her. But in season 2, she really picks up her pace, and like, after discovering a lot of the devious behind the back things that her I'm not sure what his position is, but the guy who always wears the black suit, her like, not superior but her equal in the government, but he seems to have more power than she does, like, his whole plot and involvement with Julie Mao's dad, who I don't remember the name of yet again, her going through and discovering the stealth ships and where they're made, and seeing that James Holden and Fred Johnson and Mars are not the cause of this, and then not knowing who to trust, and then bringing in the bodyguard guy. The bodyguard guy is cool. I just think he's a good secondary character, maybe tertiary. I think probably tertiary character, but I like him. And in season 2, it was very much a pickup, and in season 3 going on, after she linked with the Martian Bobby, who I very much disliked in the beginning. It gave me brainwashed like vibes, if you want to say 1984, haha. But I very much disliked her until she linked with Aversorello, and then that dynamic improved greatly on both of them. I think they both benefited by bouncing off of each other, and I'm interested to see where that goes, as they're now fugitives trying to make it back to Earth without running into the UN after the missile escape. That was fun, and I'm very glad that picked up, because every time I'd see an Aversorello scene in season 1 especially, I'd be like, okay, this is just going to be spinning the wheels as you try to discover who's bad or not. Moving to Mars, I touched on Bobby, but that's where you initially get contact with like how the society works and how it's different from Earth, where all the Earth vistas that you see are like nice cityscapes, all of that. You see like big windmill farm when Aversorello goes to visit Holden's mom, and it's like all nice in the outside world. And then Martians is just domes and military training. And then when Bobby goes to Earth, you see the slums of the Earth, of which is a great way to expose that the Earth people are very much blind to a lot of their problems that they have on the inside, and what makes them viewed a certain way from a Martian point of view of they are seen as like, oh, they have everything, there's everything that they have, and like there's no starvation, there's everything is perfection on Earth. And then Bobby sees the slums and sees the guy drug dealer that disappears, like he's just like, I'm out. But overall it just pointed out to, one, Bobby showed that like Earth had their own problems, and two, that Earth did not recognize its own problems besides like giving them a minimum basic income and not helping out the people that like needed drug supply or whatever to survive. But Mars really hasn't been touched on past the one where the Martian ship, like in season 1, got blown up by the stealth ship, and now the crew is on the Rocinante, which is like a Mars gunner ship. But like overall, it hasn't been expanded on too much, and we're not too deep into the Martian characters. But with that introduction leads to the main conflict of season 2 of the protomolecule attacking both UN soldiers and Martian soldiers on Ganymede soil, while there's a space battle of, I'm still not sure who started and who was shooting in the space battle, but now it's Earth versus Mars, like in like the preview for season 3. But like I'm not sure who's fighting in space because there's protomolecule on the ground and just slaughtered everybody except for Bobby. And anyways, moving on, like now that whole conflict with that guy is, everybody's like, I don't believe you, Bobby, in the Martian thing, that there was actually, no, they believe her because they made it. They have access to protomolecule, but they're like, shut up, don't tell the Earth. And then eventually like she links with Avasarello, and that all comes out in full. Something I forgot to touch on, which is a huge point, is Eros and the whole entire Julie Mao situation. Our detective, what's his name? I'm terrible with character names on here. Joseph Miller with the hat, mohawk, yeah, Miller. The whole thing with Julie Mao was that he got contracted to find her because she disappeared with the Anubis stealth ship. Throughout season 1, that was essentially his plot line. And then him and the crew, he links up with the crew somehow. It just kind of all works out because they have to go to the belt. And they find her infected with the protomolecule, going all the way back to the very first cold opening scene of episode 1, where she is on the stealth ship and the protomolecule is eating the reactor core, and she gets infected, she makes it back, all of that stuff. And his whole connection with her and like the fake hamster and finding stuff in it and like putting it all together, I was fine with. It was like, it was very much showed that like he was sick and tired of just like pretty much spinning his wheels as a cop or as a detective and not really accomplishing actually anything real. And he's like, hey, maybe I can find this girl and save her. But the problem I had was when he meets up with her and like and when they go on that one raid against the guys with their brains like hooked up to the computer, it just like his connection to her felt way too personal for never having met her or anything. Like it was like a really personal and like close connection, and then he kissed the little icky kiss in the protomolecule. But I was not a huge fan of the way that went through, but I was a fan of like the Eros being alive and the Eros avoiding the Mormon ship, which is really funny that religion is still very prominent and they're making a huge ship to go off to different solar systems, and then they just take that and fuck off with it. But it also crashes into Venus, and there's the whole thing through season 2 of like that one like weird accented scientist trying to like get down there. Martians also trying to get down there. This was very rambling, but I'm not sure what else I missed. Probably a lot. As I said, I watched this over a pretty long period of time, but now that I'm kind of fully invested, I'll be able to get through these seasons and have more concise thoughts. But overall, I am a fan so far, although I am still hesitant that it might drop back into that season 1 loop of slow and not really like going any place that I can perceptibly see. But my hopes are is it just got all of the seeds planted, and now they expand on all of that. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. I'll be putting out other stuff. I think I might do something on Marvel shows. I don't know. I'll figure it out. See ya.